am super excited to have Benjamin Brown, on the podcast, and basically we kind of know each other through other mutual like fitness leaders, people like Charles Poliquin and other people in the fitness space. So we kind of like know each other from knowing someone type of thing. And he's heavily involved in the supplement industry with his own supplement company that we'll have him talk about, obviously. And we're also going to get into 5 different points of discussion today, just talking about the ins and outs of the supplement industry, how to choose the right supplements, and which supplements are a complete hoax and waste of time. But first, Benjamin, thanks for being on, bro. And that we can chat and talk about stuff.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So why don't you just give us a quick background on who you are, how you got in the industry, and a little bit about you.
Sure. So I've been in the fitness, nutrition, supplement industry for about the last 15 years, and it really was a kind of a progression from starting in the fitness realm, starting in strength and conditioning, and progressing my way through personal training, through physical therapy-based stuff. Really, I've always been passionate about nutrition, and then kind of leveraging that into the supplement industry. And kind of what it all started with was my own personal health problems. Growing up, middle school, high school, I had a lot of digestive issues that the conventional medicine system couldn't really seem to help me with. It was kind of take these different medications. Most of them were acid blocking medications. And it was really the journey that I had to take to kind of figure out and heal my own health problems that led me into this space. Of course, I've always been interested in health and fitness. I've always been interested in sports and played sports. And so it just naturally made sense to me. It just naturally clicked, right? And so I started studying. I studied physical education undergrad. By the time I kind of figured out what I wanted to do, if you could say that, I was out of college into grad school for exercise and wellness at Arizona State University, and I had the opportunity to do a lot of strength and conditioning, and had some really great tutelage under some amazing mentors and colleagues at Arizona State University. And so I was really just thrown to the wolves in terms of kind of learning how to coach, how to structure strength and conditioning programs, how to program design. And so that was a phenomenal opportunity for me. And then from there I kind of started my own personal training company, just spend a lot of time in the trenches, right? Working with clients, learning what works, what doesn't work, anecdotally trying to understand more research as much as possible, and trying to marry those two is I think that we have a lot of people in the industry that are very evidence-based, which is great. I think we have a lot of people in the industry that are very going against the grain in terms of possibly aloof to the evidence that is out there and saying, no, that can't possibly be the case. Here's what I know works from my own empirical or my own anecdotal evidence. And I've always tried to be kind of right in the middle. And so with that as my interest in nutrition growed, as I continued to study through people like Charles Poliquin, through Paul Chek, through various different nutrition organizations, I decided to go back to school. So I got a master's degree in clinical nutrition from the University of Bridgeport. And that was, I finished that up a couple years ago. And that was kind of the impetus for me to really kind of take my business into the nutrition space. I stopped personal training. I started doing more online coaching, if you will, more nutritional consulting, started working with some teams, and then also started my own supplement company, which we can talk about in just a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of been the journey. So it's been fun. It's been interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, because with the personal training stuff, if we just jump to that for a second, you also do corporate wellness, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And what does that look like?
So, as is the nature of the fitness space, is we tend to have our hands in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
And it's because it's a tough business. Fitness is a tough business for most practitioners, but it's also it's a fun business to be in. And so I had the opportunity about 18 months ago to partner up with a buddy And we started a corporate wellness program for a company here in Phoenix. And so what we do with that is we've taken everything that we've accumulated over the years of coaching with individual and group clients and leverage that into a corporate wellness program. And so we address all of the same things that we would address from a one-to-one approach, right? Is we talk about motivation, we talk about goal setting, we talk about nutrition, we talk about fitness, we talk about lifestyle, stress management, gut health,
right.
All of those things that are absolutely crucial. And we just take more of a kind of wellness approach to it. And so we do that by implementing, we do various group classes per week, strength-based group classes, because we understand the importance of strength training for a population. And because most people have weight loss goals and the importance of strength training for weight loss. I'm sure a lot of that stuff that you address and your listeners are familiar with. We talk a lot about nutrition. We talk a lot about habit-based nutrition. We talk about lifestyle management, stress management, productivity, all of those things that are not only going to help these people get good health, weight loss, muscle building results, but it's also going to improve the culture and community and productivity within this organization. And that's really what they want to see at the end of the day is, yes, of course, they want their employees to be taken care of from a weight loss standpoint. And that may be what the employee is on the top of the employee's mind in terms of motivation, but the higher ups are really looking for an ROI in terms of how is this contributing to their day-to-day function? Is it reducing absenteeism? Is it improving productivity?
Right.
Is it improving community and culture within the environment, and all of those things that we're seeing? And so it's been a really cool opportunity. It's been a really great learning experience for me to have the opportunity to work with a big company and figure out how to start to incentivize people to be more active. It's also been a huge eye-opener to actually be immersed. And I honestly, Taylor, I think this is the most interesting thing for me is, for guys like us who have been passionate about health and fitness for so long, it's just habitual for us to do certain things on a day-to-day basis. We eat generally very well.
Right.
We know how to meal prep. We know how to leverage our time and prioritize our time so that we eat well from meal to meal, right? So that we exercise every single day, so that we have a positive mindset about certain aspects of our health and fitness, about our body image, all of those things. But to have the opportunity to immerse myself in a company culture where it really represents the average American population, and seeing what these people experience on a day-to-day basis and getting a better understanding really of how they structure their day, what they can be doing better, where they're sabotaged, whether it's by themselves, by coworkers, watching them go out to eat every single day and come back with shit food, and then saying it's so hard for me to lose weight, watching them come in the gym and see what their work ethic looks like, seeing them walk out of the building and skipping their workout, seeing what their work productivity looks like or what their daily habits are around their work as it pertains to, their total motivation and seeing that carryovers. It makes perfect sense that, they slack at work and they're slacking in the gym, which tells me perfectly that I know they're slacking with their nutrition.
Right.
Or hearing, specifically is hearing what their weekends look like from their coworkers. Oh, so-and-so was shit-faced all weekend, and then I meet with them on Monday. I just can't figure out why I can't lose weight. Well, but that's stuff that we wouldn't necessarily see from a one-on-one coaching standpoint or have access to, is you never know, there's a lot of times that our clients are just bullshitting us
Right.
and telling us what I want to hear. But when I can see it on a daily basis, it makes a lot more sense as to why we need to take some of the emphasis away from eat this, not that, and put it towards habit-based coaching, lifestyle-based coaching. Like, here's the things that you need to do on a daily basis to help you improve your habits. Here's the way you need to adjust your mindset so that you can plan effectively, so that you have food prepared for you, so that you can squeeze in that workout in your schedule, so that you can get great results, as opposed to where most people think, oh, it'll just take care of itself. Right. And they get home from a long day and they're like, well, I was supposed to make something healthy, but fuck it, I'm just going to heat up a pizza.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been a really cool opportunity. It's been a really good learning experience. And so.
Dude, that you hit the nail on the head. That's so interesting because it really is like people say like, I eat healthy and I go to the gym 3 days a week and, I'm not seeing results. And it's like if you actually were, a fly on the wall and followed them, eating healthy for them is like, choosing, like a whole grain bagel instead of a white bagel, and that's healthy. And obviously within context, that's not very healthy for a lot of people. Or, their workout was they jumped on the treadmill for 20 minutes, and it's like, well, that's going to be very different than if you did like, a German volume training protocol of squats and a leg workout. You know what I mean? So it is like this, people's habits are nowhere in line with what they're saying they want to accomplish and what their goals are. And the fitness is the big shiny object, and it's oftentimes the motivator, but it's not the thing that's going to move them. It's not going to move the needle the most. Right. The most is their daily habits, their nutrition. And so what we really working on is creating more awareness with people, is understanding like, dude, your calories matter. So a whole grain bagel may be a much better decision for someone that's been doing, a greasy, fatty breakfast sandwich and, and a Frappuccino or something like that. Right. It's all relative, but we're seeing now the volume that people are consuming on a daily basis. And I'll give you just a really quick example is we did a healthy smoothie day, a kind of meal replacement demonstration the other day. And it was interesting to see, because what you and I understand is that when you make a smoothie, and if we're going to do a meal replacement smoothie, we try and have protein, carbs, and fats such that it has everything that you would get in a meal. For example, you're going to have, let's just say it's coconut milk, fruit, maybe you throw in some nuts or some nut butter, you throw in some veggies like spinach or greens powder, and then you throw in some protein powder. And so we've got protein, carbs, and fats, but we also have a lot of calories. So you could easily have a 500 calorie meal replacement smoothie. Right.
So we did this demonstration, and it just so happened that it coincided with they brought in breakfast for the company as well. So they had breakfast sandwiches and yogurts and fruit and stuff like that. And what we kept noticing is that people were getting not only a smoothie, but they were taking the smoothie. They were also getting a breakfast sandwich because it was free, likely, a breakfast sandwich and a yogurt, and sitting down to eat, and just helping them understand like, hey, guys, just because it's smoothie and just because it's seemingly healthy doesn't mean it doesn't have calories. Like you're consuming probably upwards of 1,000 calories if you eat all that right now, and not understanding that that's likely more than half of what your daily caloric needs are, all at this one meal. And it's just helping people understand stuff like that. Yeah. And so it's been very useful to be immersed in it, which I think from a coaching standpoint, we often don't get to see. And so there's been tremendous value there. Yeah.
I love it. Well, we could continue to spiral
down it's all good.
At that point for sure. But let's get into the specific stuff here with the supplements. Yeah. The first point was basically how to triage supplement use and to know which ones you need and like you need now. Because obviously supplements, because American culture is like quick fix, give me the magic pill, like they think that if they do certain supplements that all of a sudden they're going to start, seeing the results that they want. So we obviously know that there's context of, like we were saying, habit changes, nutritional changes, exercise changes, stress management, all those kind of things. But when it comes to the supplements, what would you say when people are triaging what is going to be most effective and the best use of their money and getting supplements? How would you navigate that?
Yeah, it's super client dependent, but you got to factor in like what's their readiness for change, what's their motivation, what's their budget, and identify with those things. So understanding like, hey, if they just dropped $1,000 on a coaching package, and then you're you're wanting them to get another $100 a month worth of supplements or $200 a month worth of supplements, it may be something that they're resistant to.
Sure.
So identifying their readiness for change is, again, with habit changes, we really want to focus on kind of one thing at a time. And so what are the biggest needle movers? Is it just implementing a multivitamin, which can help get the ball rolling, help, create some action steps that can help push momentum, in which case that could be huge in and of itself. Or is it a digestive enzyme, or is it magnesium, whatever it is? Sometimes just getting people taking something and adding before we remove is a very positive step, instead of saying, I want you to eliminate gluten. I want you to eliminate dairy. Right. I want you to start exercising 5 days a week. I want you to start sleeping more. It's like, holy crap, this is a lot of stuff. I'm overwhelmed. I'm going to become more resistant, and essentially you're going to lose me. So you have to work with the client really to get a better understanding of what they're ready to hear, in which case, more often than not, it's like, yeah, let's start with something. So what are going to be the biggest needle movers, in which case, typically what we found to be the most effective would be a digestive enzyme, something like magnesium, possibly something like a greens powder, or a multivitamin, and really a multivitamin, not necessarily that they're that effective, but really would be for an accountability tool, a motivational tool, an action step, right? Mm-hmm. To get them to start to feel better about what they're doing, because we know once people implement one habit successfully, they're going to be more likely to implement another habit and get that. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Do you use, because yes, it's all about individualization. Some people don't need X, Y, and Z, but at least with my experience, I feel like, and I don't know if you guys look at blood labs or if you do some sort of discovery questionnaire to see if people are having, subclinical symptoms of, gastrointestinal issues or, fatigue and things like that, because that can be very telling of, where someone's at with their health, and if they need an adrenal support, or if they need, gut support, or whatever it's going to be. Do you guys use any specific testing protocols then to bring in that individualization for people?
Yeah, it depends. Again, depends on the client. Generally speaking, no. Generally speaking, most people need digestive support. Right. They need magnesium. Right. They need more fruits and vegetables in their diet. They need to make sure they're hitting their protein goals. They possibly need probiotics, anything gut health related. So I think that there's a lot of things that we can address. And dude, you can make a case for giving people every single supplement based on, the ones that have research around them, based on what their symptoms are. And so, like I said, we do try and start general and move to specific if and when they're ready. But if I was to, and there are certain situations, absolutely, depending on the severity of the symptoms and stuff like that. But if I were to do that, typically I'll refer out to either hair mineral analysis testing to identify imbalances and nutrient deficiencies. I'm a firm believer in that, and I have a great practitioner in Tucson who I use to refer people to that, who are having great results. Certainly blood work, but I don't find blood work being super valuable for identifying nutrient deficiencies, and that's simply because the body does such a good job at maintaining homeostasis in the blood, or maintaining the right balance of minerals inside and outside of the cells in the blood, that it's only far down the road of progression of disease that we would really be able to identify, at least as far as I'm aware, really be able to identify some specific nutrient deficiencies. And then, Yeah, we'll absolutely, again, as I'll refer out, but we'll look at like adrenal testing, we'll look at digestive system testing, and specifically with the digestion would be looking for parasites and bacteria and pathogens and candida or yeast overgrowth and various things that are going to influence negatively people's digestion, their inflammation levels, how it affects the adrenal glands, and therefore how it's contributing to their energy, to their ability to lose weight, to their ability to effectively detoxify and eliminate, and all of that kind of stuff. So it is something that we would look at, but it's really something that I try and avoid if possible, because I feel like 90% of the time we can get things accomplished just by focusing on those big things that we're discussing, those big needle movers.
Right, totally. So what about like omega-3? What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like for me, that would be like my stranded island supplement, if I could just bring one.
Well, I would definitely include omega-3s in the top 5. I think that number 1 would be digestive enzymes.
Yeah.
I don't know what
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really being able to look, if we're not breaking down, absorbing and assimilating the nutrients that we're consuming, then what good is anything else? What good is the organic or quality food that we're trying to consume if we're not actually breaking down and absorbing the amino acids, the vitamins and minerals and stuff like that? So I would start with, for most people, and we're seeing a prevalence of digestive issues in people, and one is the fact that we're all stressed out. Our food quality suffered tremendously in the last 50 to 100 years, so there's not nearly as much nutritional value. There's not nearly as many of those enzymes that we need to help break down our food. We're more inflamed, which means we use more protein on a daily basis to help recover and repair not only our joints, but especially for training consistently. We're needing more protein on a consistent basis. If we need protein for our joints, our digestion of those proteins may be suffering, and so supporting all of those systems with both hydrochloric acid and then other digestive enzymes that are going to help support protein, carbs, and fat breakdown on down the road. Everything from the stomach down through the small and large intestine is incredibly important. And so that would easily be the first thing that I would start with. And it's making sure, you're getting the hydrochloric acid that your stomach normally produces. And not everyone needs it, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And it's a sign of that is a lot of people are hypochlorhydric or don't produce enough stomach acid. And a sign of that is that they're possibly burping up their foods or getting acid indigestion. And oftentimes we think or are told, that it's too much stomach acid, which is, as far as I understand, very rarely the case. More often than not, it's not enough stomach acid. Your stomach's not able to break down those proteins, and your body wants to get them back up. And so supporting with, and that was a lot of what was my personal issue with my gut, with my stomach issues growing up, was I was suffering from a bacterial infection called H. pylori, which is a nasty little bug that lives in the stomach. That actually a large percentage, or I think above 50% of the American population, it's suggested may be suffering with. One of the symptoms of H. pylori is extreme inflammation in the stomach, but it also can suppress HCl production, which normally wouldn't be a problem for a 16-year-old kid, but with the H. pylori, it seems like it significantly suppressed HCl, to say nothing of the other food sensitivities that I was experiencing at the time. And so once I found that out, which wasn't until, so from the time I was like 15 or 16 until I started studying functional medicine with Dan Kalish in 2006 or 7, and started to do some lab testing for myself. So a solid 10 years I was struggling with that.
Wow.
And just trying to figure out that led me into the field of alternative medicine, holistic nutrition, if you will, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I say a digestive enzyme can be immensely valuable for so many different people.
Right.
So supporting with that for sure. And then, I said making sure you have the HCl, making sure that there's other what we call kind of proteases, carbohydrate ACEs, things that end in ASE as being enzymes that help break down protein, carbs, and fats are typically the lipases. And so usually there's some good practitioner grade products that have the HCl, that have the pancreatic enzymes and the digestive enzymes that are going to help break down those protein, carbs, and fats that are really beneficial for people.
Yeah. Love it.
Next to that, I would say magnesium. Right, we know the value of magnesium, and magnesium is one of those minerals that we use in hundreds of biochemical reactions in the body. Right, we use it for energy production, muscle recovery, and blood sugar maintenance, and cognitive function, and nervous system function, and cell signaling. And the research goes on and on too about the stuff that's coming on about the benefits of utilizing magnesium in all of its various forms, both orally and topically. And I could really go on and on about magnesium. So I would definitely say for the majority of the population, magnesium is something that's very beneficial.
What would you say is your favorite form of magnesium? Because there's different ones you can use for the different properties that they help with the different amino acid that's attached to it and how it's going to help. What are some of your favorite ones that you like to, I guess, prescribe to people?
I have found, and this is a lot of just by talking with other practitioners, is you can get fancy and start to play around with the more expensive versions. The magnesium threonate that helps more with cognitive,
transdermal stuff of that,
the threonate specifically is amino acid that crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it can help with helping shut off the brain, helping with sleep, stuff like that. But I'm kind of just like really practical about it. Magnesium citrate seems to work very well. Magnesium glycinate seems to work very well. Some sort of combination. Again, Taylor, it's like, if we're going to make supplement recommendations for someone, what's something that they're willing to stick with for a year and that fits within their budget? Like, I've been down the road of let's throw protocol after protocol, hundreds of dollars a month or even a week at people for these supplements. And it may work a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, like, it's about focusing on all of the other things that we've talked about, nutrition, lifestyle, training consistently. And if they're not doing that, why the fuck are we wasting our time? So it's like, hey, let's find a reasonably priced magnesium that seems to be well absorbed. And dude, just stick with that. And we can play around with the dosing, and everyone's individual. So there's certain forms that may work better for some people, certain forms that may not. And, that's where we need to individualize it and communicate and help people understand that just because I told you to take it doesn't mean it's necessarily the right product for you. Just because I got great results with someone else for it doesn't mean it's going to work great with you. You may have a negative reaction to it. It may give you a migraine. It may give you gastric distress, whatever it is. And so that's where we can start to play around with some of those forms. But a good chelated magnesium, any of them that are within someone's price range for sure.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Okay, so I want to get into this one, number 2, because I'm actually really interested about. This is like stuff that I'm not like well informed on. But how do you know, like, if a supplement company, because obviously the supplement industry is very deregulated. So, and my understanding is it's becoming more regulated, but essentially people can put together a product and put it out there for retail without really having too much testing or anything done. So, like, how do you figure out if a company has done proper testing? What does that testing look like? How do you know if something's going to have efficacy when you buy a supplement from such and such company that's actually, it is what it says it is and it's going to work like it says it's going to work?
Totally. So it's not that the industry is deregulated. It actually is regulated. And the place that it's regulated is on the manufacturing and testing side of things. And so the Federal Trade Commission and the FDA regulate manufacturers heavily. Now, there's various certifications that we'll get into, but the important things to understand are, And I'm going to say, generally speaking, the majority of supplements in the market are perfectly safe to take, and that what the labels say are in the bottle are actually in the bottle. Now, yes, there's companies that unethically are going to put in fillers. They're certainly going to make claims that are not necessarily true, and that's of all the supplement industry. But let's be very clear, and I want people to understand that you know, the FDA, what the FDA regulates is that you're not making health claims. So I can't say that my supplement helps cure cancer.
Yeah.
Okay. So they are going to be very adamant about ensuring that supplement companies cannot make health claims, and they're also going to ensure that and try and guarantee that what we say is on the bottle in the ingredient list is actually in the ingredient list in the amounts that says is in the ingredient list. And that's where they work, and the Federal Trade Commission works with the manufacturers and tests the manufacturers to ensure that their testing processes, their purchase of raw materials, their purification processes are all in line with good manufacturing processes, right? And so that's where we want to look at certain certifications for manufacturers that will put them above and beyond the rest. So one is good manufacturing processes, and that's basically saying that this manufacturer is taking all of the steps that's recognized as being the certification that the FDA and the certification requires for good manufacturing. They're testing for purity, quality, strength, longevity in terms of expiration of the product. They're testing for cleanliness of the equipment, ensuring that if they make claims that there's no gluten, soy, dairy, corn in any of those products, they're ensuring that all of these equipment is free of gluten, soy, dairy, corn, nuts, all of that type of stuff. So it's higher regulated than what people actually think. With that said, there's nothing stopping someone, at least initially, from putting together some bottles of, Testo Stack 3000 and putting shit in capsules and selling it on eBay, or trying to get it on Amazon, although Amazon is actually getting fairly strict now as well. So the things that people should be looking for is certainly doing their diligence as to what are the products that they're looking for, what are their goals, and then what sort of information and research specifically can they find about those ingredients that leads them to believe that it's actually going to be effective for them. And this is aside from the claims on the label. Just because the label says increase lean body mass, decrease body fat, increase energy, fat burner,
really
whatever
generic things, yeah.
Super generic claims that any company can make and that they're going to make because, dude, there's marketing, and the supplement is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And you have to serve people's needs. That's what people are looking for, the magic bullet. So why wouldn't companies try and offer that? But at the end of the day, the majority of them are not necessarily supporting those claims. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There is, let's see, so there's NSF. So manufacturers, like for my supplement company, we are NSF GMP, and NSF stands for National Sanitation Federation, I believe. There's an NSF certified for sport, but it's basically further certifying that whatever ingredients are listed on the bottle, it's actually in the bottle in the amounts that they say. And then the NSF certified for sport is making sure that there's no banned substances that would be used for professional or Olympic level sports or or college NCAA. There's NCAA regulations as well as to certain ingredients that people can and can't use.
Because even in NCAA, they're not even allowed to have a certain caffeine amount, correct? If they go over in a certain amount of caffeine, they can get red flagged or whatever. Is that true?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Somewhere.
I feel like it might be true. I know it's true for Olympic level
Yeah.
competition. At least I think it is, but that's a good question. And I don't have an answer as far as the caffeine in, but as an example is that's why FDA banned ephedra. So FDA is going to come down on companies that one are having health related complaints against them, like all of these companies that were providing fat burners with ephedra and stimulant like ingredients that were creating a massive toxic burden on the liver. Form matters, the potency matters, and that's where people need to kind of do their homework and not just listen to whatever the latest YouTube video or Google article told them they should be taking, because everyone has a vested interest in what they're promoting. I have a vested interest in promoting my essential amino acids.
Right.
Like, of course I have a biased opinion.
Sure.
So, that's where people need to do their due diligence. It's just like they would, research a car. Like, how much time do people spend looking at the next car that they're going to buy and analyzing, information but they're more than willing to just go out and buy the latest supplement because Dr. Oz said it's going to help them. It's going to be that magic pill.
Right.
Come on.
Totally. And and this is kind of side tangent now, but like because I've used a lot of different supplements from different companies, like a lot, and I'm sure you have too. So, I'll plug them because I think they're a great supplement company, but like ATP Labs, for example, or Designs for Health, or like Thorne Research, and like, why is it? Because I've taken supplements from other companies of like, a creatine monohydrate, but then use one from Designs for Health, and it seems to be so much more potent and work so much more effectively. How is that something that happens on the manufacturing side then, of like the potency of what they're using can be different versus the manufacturing for this other supplement company? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I guess to answer your question is, so two things. One is the quality of the raw materials that these manufacturers are purchasing. That makes a huge difference. So here's where things can get interesting. Is it's important for companies to have a good relationship with their manufacturer. There's some shady shit with manufacturers in terms of, as a manufacturer, what I could feasibly do is, let's say you want to formulate a vitamin C and a magnesium powder, just as an example.
Yeah.
Well, and you say you want to use these specific ingredients. Well, what I could do is I could source those raw materials from China, and then I could tell you that I'm using one form of vitamin C, but I actually ordered the cheaper form, and that's what we're putting in your product. So it's important for those manufacturers. That's where some of the manufacturer certifications really come into play, is ensuring that they're doing ethical business. And then from the other end of things is the potency of the ingredients absolutely matters. The quality of the raw materials matters to the degree that, are we using a potency that's shown to be effective, right? Is it a therapeutic dose? And typically what most of these practitioner grade companies are doing is they're putting together products that have all therapeutic doses. A lot of them are based on research in terms of what is the minimum effective dose that we should be using. I think some of them are starting to get more watered down as this practitioner supplement industry grows, but certainly a lot of them have their specific formulas that are very, very good as compared to. And here's the thing is, it's the price of the raw materials, right? There's a reason as practitioners we're paying, and therefore to our clients, they're paying top dollar. There's a reason why a chelated magnesium product or an essential amino acid powder is going to be significantly more expensive than a product that you would get from GNC or High Health. And it's one, because of the quality of the ingredients and the potency of those formulations. Because what's the good of taking it if it doesn't even work? Right? We want to know that what we're giving people is going to be effective, and that that we see that it's effective, but it's also shown to be effective for whatever research exists on those said products, which for a lot of these herbal-based things, there is some very, very good research on them.
Yeah, totally.
Does that make sense?
Totally, man. And would you agree with this? Like, a good rule of thumb is if a product is super, like, dirt cheap, that likely is probably not going to work the way that you want it to.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a fair assumption.
Yeah.
Is either, either it's just a very low potency, it's shitty raw materials, it's going to be poorly absorbed, it has some fillers or binders in it that may inhibit absorption to some degree. It's cheaply made,
right?
And therefore it's likely going to be poorly absorbed for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the next one here. Which supplements, and we don't have to say all of them, but what would you say are the big supplements that people use on a consistent basis that are just complete waste of time, that are just the stupidest thing that people can be taking?
Definitely fat burners.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like this, like raspberry ketones and green tea extract for fat loss and Garcinia cambogia, all these Dr. Oz BS
right.
supplements that there's no good valid research. I don't ever expect people to, like when I say people need to do their homework, what I would suggest people do is when you're reading an article and someone makes a claim to suggest that raspberry ketones have been shown to be effective for fat loss in a 6-week study, check the resource, check the reference, go down to whether there's a hyperlink right there or at the bottom of the article, click on the reference and actually read the excerpt. Hopefully it links to a research study. Oftentimes what people do is just
it's an excerpt from another freaking blog or another article
from someone else's blog, and then you have to go to theirs, and that's a lot of like what Mercola does that I found, and that's how I learned a lot about the supplement industry and how I started to get into supplementation, is because I've always been very analytical. And so when someone tells me that this supplement works, that you need to take this, say, okay, well, help me understand why, right? And is there research to support that? So I think it's silly to expect anyone, and even most coaches, to go in and read research and to understand how to read research. But at the very least, try and identify the source of where this information is coming from.
Right.
And that way you can see, a great resource is examine.com.
I was just going to say, people go to examine.com and just punch in whatever ingredient or supplement that they're looking for.
So I suggest people subscribe to examine.com. It's very evidence-based about supplementations, and they actually classify research to the degree of effectiveness, whether it's on a scale A, B, C, D.
Right.
And to suggest that, okay, raspberry ketones have no evidence to suggest that they're effective in fat loss. And then the other one would be Linus Pauling Institute through Oregon State University. And that is a resource that I use quite a lot that breaks down individual vitamins and minerals and herbs into what they do, how they work, what's the physiology and biochemistry behind them, what sources do they come from, what's the recommended daily allowance, what's the upper limits of intake that people should be avoiding, and what research is around to support those claims.
Yeah.
So that's a very handy resource, both of those to look at. So I think that the whole fat loss supplement, like, you're wasting your time and money if you're looking for fat burner supplements.
Yeah.
For the most part, there are very, very few instances where any of that stuff can be beneficial. And I would say that, one of the main ones that has a carryover to numerous areas in fitness and health would be caffeine.
Yeah.
In terms of stimulating metabolic output. Otherwise, Don't bother.
But even with caffeine, I feel like acutely, yeah, it's going to help like in that moment or whatever. But the compounding effect of overusing it, over a long period of time then starts to have a reverse effect, right? And it's starting to affect.
It can.
If someone's adrenal gland is so overworked and taxed from producing these catecholamines and things like that, their DHA sulfate levels maybe can start to go down because all their raw materials are going towards making cortisol all the freaking time.
Yep.
But yeah,
sure.
Yeah, caffeine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's one of those factors that we need to individualize and say, as an example, I'll give you an example of where caffeine was not effective. I had a client recently, and she was using a caffeine stimulant pre-workout. Problem was she was working out at 3 p.m. And so she was using a caffeine kind of fat loss stimulant, a good product, so to speak, but bad timing for it. And so what she didn't realize was that it was affecting her sleep. She couldn't shut that cortisol down before bed, so it prolonged her sleep. She was waking up groggy, so it was definitely affecting her adrenals. It was affecting her circadian rhythm, her cortisol rhythm, all of that stuff. So by moving that earlier in the day or eliminating, we could make a significant difference. And so people need to understand, like, it needs to be individualized. What are your unique needs and situation? And then how do these things fit in for you, so that are you going to do it consistently, and can you do it, long term? Right.
Totally, man. I was going to bring it up. What are your thoughts on metformin?
To be fair, I've been reading some stuff on metformin, and I'm just not educated enough to really say how beneficial it is. There's some guys that I really respect in the industry that are really touting the benefits of metformin, and so I'm totally one to be like, show me why.
Yeah.
And I'm just because it's a pharmaceutical drug, way back when I would have said fuck that,
Right.
just because it's a pharmaceutical, all of a sudden it's terrible for you.
Right.
And look, I think that we've got to meet in the middle and help and understand that there's so many positive things that the pharmaceutical industry can and has done for our society. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly an agenda, but
there's an agenda with everyone. Like, everyone's trying to make money in business, so it's like, even people who make supplements, you're doing it to make an impact and to make money. Like,
exactly.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And so it seems like it can be a very effective drug for not only people that are type 2 diabetic for handling blood sugar, but also just as a longevity tool, as a blood sugar management tool for people in general. And that's the name of the game, is we need to shift the focus away from, and this is something that I've started to really care a lot more about in these last few years as I get older. I just turned 38, and it's so much more now as I've ditched the ego. It's so much more about, hey, how can I feel good, like long term? How can I continue to train consistently, feel great, have good muscle definition, lean body mass, low levels of body fat, and just be, just feel great and have good blood numbers and live a really long, healthy life. What do I need to do that, as opposed to how can I lift the most? How can I get as lean as possible in 12 to 16 weeks? And, so that's where a lot of this longevity-based stuff comes in. And we're starting to learn a lot more about the types of things, and a lot of it seems to come down to blood sugar management on a day-to-day basis, and that's where that metformin can be extremely valuable.
Right, totally. I was just curious because I haven't been able to spend enough time researching it myself, so I was curious if you had done any of that or dove into it yet. Well, how much time do you have, man? Because I want to be.
Yeah, I got time for a few more. Let's.
Because I want to make sure we have time to talk about your supplement company and the EAAs, because I think they're really cool. So
cool.
Like a lot of people who like listen to this podcast or that follow me or get coaching with me or whatever, a big prerogative is building muscle. And it's funny, like, because I'm only 28, so it's like, of course, I'm still in the mindset of like, I want to be so muscular when I walk into a room, people throw up, like, and just, be massive. But a lot of guys, obviously, they want to have muscle. They want to be lean. Have the big arms and all that kind of stuff. What would you say? Again, I personally even don't think these are like top of priority in context of freaking sleep, water, proper nutrition with macronutrients and all that kind of stuff. But that aside, those factors aside, what supplements would you say are really beneficial with building muscle and that can be a part of someone's regime if they're highly focused on hypertrophy and building muscle?
Yeah, cool. So assuming, right, they're training consistently, they've got the right training program, right, they are sleeping, they're managing stress, then and only then should supplementation become a priority. And so first and foremost is they need to be hitting protein goals, right? So that's where whey protein, essential amino acids can come in. And at the end, I'll go through a few of the supplements and then I'll talk about my product. But specifically the essential amino acids, and those are the building blocks of protein that people need to get from their food. And those are the proteins that our body can't manufacture. And there's 9 essential amino acids that we have to get from animal proteins, or at least that are the densest source of essential amino acids. That's chicken, fish, beef, pork, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so assuming we're getting, and there's about 20-ish amino acids. There's essential amino acids, there's non-essential amino acids, and there's conditionally essential amino acids. And those are all found in our foods to some degree, higher amounts of the essential amino acids in our animal products, dairy products, and then to some degree in some plant-based proteins, but usually not in the optimal amounts. Right. But first and foremost, people have to be getting enough protein in, and that's where a good diet and then supplemental protein can come in. Mm-hmm. So that would be certainly first and foremost.
And just with that, what are your thoughts? 'Cause I like to tell people to rotate their like protein powders just so they don't, create an intolerance to say whey or to another one. So like, what are your thoughts on like, do you really like just whey isolates and keeping it simple if it's like a grass-fed and a good quality of whey, or are you more big on the beef? Like, and obviously there's individualization. I was just curious your thoughts on.
Yeah. At one time I would have told people to rotate through their sources. I would have said do whey, then do goat, then do casein, then do, hydrolysate, and then switch to a plant protein for a while. But honestly, again, as it comes down to what's realistic. So I think if people like something, stick with it. If they digest it well, if they feel like it's helping them make progress, then stick with it.
Sure.
In theory, it would be great for them to be rotating consistently, but
more it comes back to the simplicity of making a habit, being consistent with it. Yeah.
Simple's better, dude. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just one less step for people to worry about. If I have a great protein powder that tastes good to me, like may not be technically the best product on the market, it may not be the most expensive, it may not be grass-fed protein from, Swedish grass-fed cows. It's like, fuck. Come on. I think generally speaking, again, most products on the market are fine. Does it fit the price point? Is it something that tastes good? And can you take it consistently? That's going to be the most important thing. So,
which one are you taking right now?
What's that?
Which one do you take?
Which protein?
Yeah.
I am using, I'm using, if I use it, which I don't use it too often. I'll use the ATP beef protein.
Yeah.
And that's simply because Robert sent me a bottle. So that stuff's expensive. I also use the Designs for Health. Like we use the Designs for Health beef protein.
Yeah.
With our corporate wellness program.
Got it.
That's what we were using for the smoothies. It blends up super well. It's delicious.
Yeah.
No, just stevia as a sweetener. Right. Super clean, good source of grass-fed protein. If it's just like on the go, I'll use like a Dimetized ISO 100 or something like that. But really, I tend to not do great. I tend to not do great with whey. If I use it too frequently, it tends to get me really bloated. And that's part of my essential amino acids and part of why I created it.
Right.
Is because of the digestibility and stuff like that.
Right. Because we'll get into that here in a second. So
second to the protein, creatine. Yeah. Creatine's just like, dude, for sure. We have so much great research on creatine now, and it's not just the muscle building benefits. And creatine doesn't directly help build muscle, but it helps build and recover the energy stores that we need for power output. It's like that extra short burst of gasoline, right? That we can put in the tank, and when we can keep that fueled up, keep the muscle cells and the phosphagen system fueled up with that energy, then we're going to be able to do more work output in a short period of time. And that in and of itself can help prove power strength and ultimately muscle building output. But there's so much great research now to suggest the benefits of creatine for everyone, for cardiac function, for brain health, specifically for TBIs or traumatic brain injury, and people who have had concussions and car accidents and stuff like that, in terms of helping the cells regenerate and recover and mitochondrial function and stuff like that. So I really would, creatine would be one of those that I would recommend for everyone regardless. Yeah. I don't know if it would necessarily fall in my top 5, probably would at this point. But yeah, so creatine's a good one. And then let's see, where are we at? I would say we could talk about beta-alanine, and we could talk about citrulline malate.
Some of the nitric oxide type stuff.
Yeah, beta-alanine in terms of being able to, and citrulline as well, as being able to kind of buffer the acid buildup. Beta-alanine kind of teams up with one of the essential amino acids, histidine, to form carnosine, and carnosine seems to be that main acid buffer, that hydrogen ion buffer, so that when we're strength training and we're building up lactate and we're becoming more acidic, it helps buffer that acidosis, helps us recover faster, helps us do more work output. Same type of deal with citrulline. Citrulline helps, citrulline malate specifically helps improve blood flow, helps clear lactate and ammonia faster in the urea cycle, so that we can increase work capacity between, during our exercise session. We can do more work with less rest, basically. Right. But it also means reduced muscle soreness, so that we're shuttling out the metabolic waste a lot quicker. And that's, and muscle building's a long game. And so that's where some of these things can come into handy is when we're thinking about the long game and you've got the budget for it, then if it makes, a couple percent, 5%, 2% difference, 10% difference, then why not be shuttling those things in and around your workouts, assuming you're training consistently. Yeah. Totally. Let's see.
Well, why don't you talk about the essential aminos? Because, honestly, that's a big one for me for muscle building and with coaching people. So why don't you talk about it?
So people need to understand the importance of protein in their diet. And as I said, essential amino acids are the building blocks of protein. You can kind of think about them as like a series of Legos stacked together, right? I've got all these Legos that are stacked together. And when we eat a protein, it's broken down into peptides, or basically little blocks of, let's say, 3 or 4 parts of Legos that are stacked together. Now, the essential amino acids in free form is each of these individual Lego pieces, but they're not linked to the other Legos. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So there's no peptide bonds, which means that they don't require any digestion. They completely bypass the stomach.
Just go right into the bloodstream.
right into the bloodstream, right to provide the raw materials for muscle building and recovery. And that's where the essential amino acids from a supplement form can come in handy. Now, most people are familiar with the branch chain amino acids.
Right.
That's 3 of the 9 essential amino acids, and those 3 are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And leucine is the big one that we know, for muscle protein synthesis. That helps us activate that muscle building and recovery response. And that's one of those big ones that we would get from the food that we consume and from an essential amino acid powder. Now, the reason we put together the complete essentials, which is what our product is called, and the reason we opted to do all 9 essential amino acids as opposed to just the 3, which most companies are doing, is because we understand the importance of getting in all of the essential amino acids. One is because people don't eat enough protein on a daily basis.
Right.
They just don't. And our protein needs, as I discussed earlier, are significantly increased under numerous situations, whether it be strength training, whether it be stress and inflammation, whether it be injury. So specifically for athletes that are needing to regenerate protein and tissue consistently, especially during times of sickness or injury. People don't understand the need for protein just to support immune system function. Mm-hmm. And so our thought process was really around how do we provide more of a complete protein as opposed to just the branch chain amino acids. And so we opted to do all 9 essential amino acids so that people are getting more of exactly that, more of something that would be similar to eating a steak or a piece of chicken or a piece of fish, so that we can help support that protein, total dietary protein intake. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I've heard it before, but you probably know exactly. What is like the conversion of how many grams of essential amino acids is going to be equivalent to a gram of protein?
So I guess it depends on the source, if I'm understanding you correctly, but let's just say, let's say a chicken breast, let's say 30 grams of a chicken breast would equate to 8 to 10 grams of the essential amino acids.
Got it.
Like 20 gram scoop of a whey protein would be 8 to 10 grams of specifically the essential amino acids, and then a whey protein is going to have some non-essential amino acids as well.
Right. That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yes, got it.
So we're going directly to the source,
right.
And some would suggest that the bioavailability, again, because it doesn't require any digestion, is it has a higher biological value. So we're going to get more bang for our buck by directly consuming the essential amino acids. There's no breakdown required, therefore we may not lose any of that value.
Right, yeah, because I've heard that before too, of like, and that's where the quality of protein sources comes into play too, like how well you're going to absorb it and all that kind of stuff, because I forget what the number was, but like, you're only really getting a small percentage of those amino acids shuttled to muscle cells from whatever protein source that you're eating.
Especially if your digestion sucks.
Sucks, right? Yeah, you have gut permeability, and then all of a sudden, you're not really getting much.
Yeah, so if you're hypochloremic, right, we talked about a vast majority of the population is not producing enough stomach acid. They can't break down the proteins properly, so they're losing these huge chunks of protein. Not only is it going to increase food sensitivities to these specific amino acids in the protein, but it's also going to hinder their ability to absorb the proteins because they're not breaking down those peptides. And in order for it to be absorbed through the cells into the bloodstream, it needs to be in these. Your body's going to break it down into the free-form amino acids regardless. The stronger the peptide bond versus, so that's a difference between like whey protein versus casein protein, and the types of protein is different peptide bonds.
Right.
They're broken down in different ways, but they need to be broken down. And so if your digestion sucks, you're not going to break them down. As you get older, our protein needs potentially increase, right? Depending on whether you're strength training or not, but through sarcopenia, through immune system dysfunction, our protein needs stay high, but people lose the ability to digest effectively. Their HCl production goes down. Oftentimes you talk to older people and they say they're just not hungry. They don't care for animal protein anymore. And so it's a double-edged sword in terms of they need it more, but they're not wanting to consume it, nor can they necessarily digest it.
Right. Then they're
So
eating pumpkin pie and cheesecake instead because it sounds better.
I mean, the typical standard American diet stuff. So, we've realized the importance. And initially, it wasn't. It was more from a recreational training. Like, okay, if again, dude, as I keep coming back to this biggest bang for your buck, if I'm working with a client, I have an hour to an hour and a half of time to maximize our efforts. It's better for me to be giving them a product that's going to encompass 3 or 4 or 5 different things and have them take it during that period of time than to say, okay, go home and drink a protein shake. What's the likelihood that they're actually going to do it? Right. It's a lot less than if I were to give them something on the spot and have them do it. So that was part of the impetus for me to create the product, was because I was working with a lot of clients. I was giving them a lot of different products. It obviously costs them a lot to buy them. It costs me a lot of time and money to deal with inventorying them and selling them. Basically, long story short, is we had the opportunity to kind of sit down with the manufacturer, his brother-in-law, and say, if you were to create anything, what would it be? I said, well, I'm using BCAAs, I'm using essential amino acids, I'm using citrulline, I'm using electrolytes. I'm tired of the price points. I'm tired of the artificial sweeteners. I'm tired of the flavorings and those types of things. So could we possibly take all of this and kind of put it into one? And so I kind of made a laundry list of ingredients. And then we just kind of went through version after version in terms of, initially it was like, I want beta-alanine, I want creatine. And then they're like, okay, yeah, we can do it. Here's what the cost is. So okay, we can't afford that. No chance, no way. Our clients can't afford that after our markup. And so it just kept leveraging it down to what we thought would be a realistic product. And that's where we came up with the kind of what we have now as the complete essentials. So, in addition to the essential amino acids, we have one other non-essential amino acid, which is tyrosine. And tyrosine, we know, is one of those amino acids that can get depleted when we use too much of specifically the branched chain amino acids, which a lot of us meatheads have done over our lifetime, right? We've taken a ton of BCAAs, and BCAAs can deplete not only tyrosine, but B6. So we've got B6 and tyrosine to help improve dopamine, which is kind of a brain-boosting neurotransmitter.
And it's a raw material for thyroid hormone, too. I mean, it's important for a lot of different things. So
it's important for a lot of different things, absolutely. And then, like I said, is what can we put in there to help become more of like a pre-intra workout? And that's where the citrulline, similar to how I was talking about the beta-alanine, the citrulline comes in handy. We've got so much good research on citrulline now. Yeah. A lot of people are familiar with arginine as being, a vasodilation, like a blood flow, a pump type ingredient, but we know the citrulline is a lot more beneficial, a lot more bioavailable because it's a precursor to arginine. And so it helps with blood flow, it helps with energy, it helps with driving those raw materials to the muscle cells, and then helping clear the metabolic byproducts of exercise. So it reduces muscle soreness, all that kind of stuff. We added L-carnitine, which helps with fatty acid mobilization. Mm-hmm. So in a roundabout way, it does help burn more body fat and use more fat as energy. Right. We have electrolytes, sodium, magnesium, potassium in those good quality mineral forms, those chelated forms as we talked about. Yeah. And then let's see, no caffeine. So we wanted to make sure there's a lot of people, and people respond very differently. Like you were talking about, the caffeine is, everyone's very individualized in terms of how they metabolize caffeine. Yeah. And what I found over my career is that because it's so individualized, we all metabolize it so differently that it wouldn't be right to put in a set dose, whether it be 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams per serving, because one of the things about our product is we dose it based on body size and muscle mass. Mm-hmm. So for your average 150-pound female, they're only going to need to take 2 scoops before and during their workout. And that's based on what the research suggests around not only the essential amino acids, but also the citrulline and the carnitine. So they're going to be getting those therapeutic doses.
Right.
Similar to why a guy your size or my size, guy who's over 200 pounds, is going to be taking closer to 4 scoops before and during their workouts, so that we're getting 6 to 8 grams of citrulline, so that we're getting 2 to 4 grams of L-carnitine, so that we're getting 30 grams of the essential amino acids.
Right.
So in addition to no stimulants, we have no artificial sweeteners, no sucralose, no asulfame. We just use stevia. And so for this one, we have a little bit of organic cane sugar that kind of helps cut the bite. For people that aren't familiar, stevia can have a little bit of a bitterness to it. And we're all very different in terms of our palate. But for our lemon lime that's coming out in a few months, we have no sugar. We have just stevia and monk fruit.
Oh, cool.
So we wanted to kind of play around and try and find it, even though I don't think sugar's bad, especially in such finite amounts.
Right.
We still wanted to find something that was going to be non-sugar.
It's more marketable, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, of course, and that's an issue as well. And so, so that's our complete essentials.
That's awesome.
We're having I'll make sure to provide a discount code for your followers. In fact, I'll use the code Savage Strength, and
cool.
Use the code Savage Strength. We'll of course provide the link to the website, and then all your followers will have to do is plug in the code Savage Strength at discount, and we'll kick them back a 15% discount on their first order.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and I'll link it in the notes section and stuff. But what's the website they would go to purchase the complete essentials? Yeah,
so the website, our business website is BSL Nutrition. BSL stands for Body Systems Labs. So it's BSLNutrition.com. And then that's our content page. And then the website for the supplement is BSLNutritionShop.com.
Cool.
So they can go over and check out all of our health-related content there. We have obviously articles, we have videos, we do a weekly podcast with other health practitioners like yourself to talk about the good, bad, and ugly within the industry. And ultimately, we really try, and our goal is to help make smart nutrition simple, right? Yeah. And it's everything that I've been talking about. Is we want to create the longest, most realistic change for people, and that in order to do that, you got to break things down to simplicity.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, man, and hopefully we'll be able to do another one of these again in the future, because it was really insightful and stuff for me too. I love learning more about all this kind of stuff. So thanks for being on, bro.
Absolutely. I appreciate having me. Thank you very much for your time, and hope everyone enjoyed it. Talk to you later.
All right, man.